Get more sleep. Get more sleep. Get more sleep. I'm sure you hear these words everywhere. I know that all of you, being in college, you're told to get more sleep for things like finals. This doesn't always happen, does it? And actually, more often than not, the opposite happens. We get less sleep. What's wrong with this picture? Why do we do this to our bodies? We aren't made to stay up all hours of the night and still be expected to run normally the next day. I'll explain why less sleep can really hurt you short-term and long-term. And I'll also explain how this has been practically an epidemic for society today. I'll give you ways that you can manage your time to be able to put yourselves onto a good sleeping schedule. And I know that from experience, it's hard to have a steady schedule without force. I would get maybe 4 hours of sleep every night for about 3 years, but this year I finally changed it around and made my average about 8 hours of sleep every night. And I'll tell you how to do that and how I did it. The lack of sleep in today's society is not only hurting the individual, but hurting society, and the problem needs to start turning around. I'll present the problems and the solutions for you. So, first thing I'd like to talk about is how the lack of sleep affects you personally as an individual. So first off, your health is probably the most important thing that sleep deprivation affects negatively. So WebMD, which is a really good source, states these 10 negative causes that lack of sleep does to you. You gain weight, it increases risk of death. There's different things why. It's like depression, impaired judgment, forgetfulness, aging skin, you even have a dead sex drive, you're dumbed down, serious health problems come about, different heart issues, and auto accidents, and that will lead to society. So, as you can tell, there's not really any good that comes from a consistent lack of sleep. I'd like to focus on a few of those things I mentioned, such as gaining weight, being forgetful, and feeling dumbed down. So as college students, it's a really important topic to address because people think that their health is allowed to suffer to be able to have a social life and to get good grades. And to be quite frank, in reality, sleep and your own health is more important than a social life and even good grades. But that is where your priorities come into play. And don't risk your grades from forgetfulness, you know what I mean? Like, if you want to do well, like, study and go to bed early. You actually remember what you have studied if you go to bed right after, and stay on top of it, okay? So your lack of sleep also causes a sensation of hunger by 25%. This leads to the weight gain, which then makes most people feel even more lethargic. It makes them even more tired because they have been listening to their cravings. So you're getting less sleep and you're more tired throughout the day. So lastly, studies show that regular sleeping too little, 6 hours or less, or regularly sleeping too much, more than 9 hours, is actually associated with a shorter lifespan. They want you to get around 7 to 8 hours, and that's what's the ideal. I mean, everybody's different, but that's the ideal. So this is just about your long-term health, okay? So understanding that habits are habits, and they're hard to break, so you know that, right? So start now. Start breaking them now before the risk of early aged death becomes an issue. So now, your personal health is really important, but the health of society as a whole can be more detrimental for the years down the road if many of the members of society aren't functioning properly. So, there's a huge problem that society has. Now, studies show that 1,550 deaths and over 40,000 injuries in the U.S. annually are due to sleepy drivers, according to the National Department of Transportation. And almost 20% of all serious car crash injuries in the general population are associated with driver sleepiness. So the people that make up society are actually damaging each other just because they aren't getting enough sleep. So that's just making society not run so well, and then we have accidents everywhere and, things slow down. So also, the Institute of Medicine's report to The Ear is Human estimated that as many as 98,000 deaths due to medical errors occur annually in the U.S. hospitals. Long work hours and extended shifts among hospital workers are now known to contribute to the problem. Since the report's release, several new studies have found strong relationships between sleep loss, shift duration, and medical errors among medical residents. Now, these shifts that these people work are 24-hour shifts, and they're every third day, so that's 96 hours a week about. It's crazy. I don't know how they do that. I don't think that's right. We need to give them better chances to sleep. And lastly, there was a rocket that I'm sure you all heard about that was built that blew up right after it launched, right? Yeah, that was due to human error. It was 1,000th of an inch off in one of the parts being built, and it was they traced it back to partially, lack of sleep. It's a really big factor in that. So do you really, want to be blamed for something like that just because you got a lack of sleep? Like, you should know about yourself to get enough and to be a functioning member of society that actually wants to do well. Just get sleep and you'll do it well. You will. So lastly, there's an effect on the economy, right? The annual economic impact of sleep problems relating to workers' inability to adjust to late shifts are estimated to be at minimum over $60 billion. $60 billion, and that's just one part of, shifting to late shifts, right? There's many other different areas that are cause different accidents, we have our state workers. So that's just a part of the economic issue. So that's just some of them, and I've named a few of the problems here for you that lack of sleep causes. Here are some solutions for you to know how to get rid of the amount of sleep every night to eventually become the most productive member of society you can be. So here is my explained solution. It's college, right? You don't have a curfew. Does that mean you're going to stay up and go out until 2 a.m. every night? If you are, then you're probably saying this every minute of every day. I'm so tired, I just want to go home and sleep. And then later that night, you're probably going to go out to party, and you're going to stay up in the wee hours of the morning and do homework and study just to get it done, right? So to change your habits, it takes learning your priorities. If you need all your time for studying in school, don't add anything else. If you need half of your time for work in school, that's what you do. I think that school should be at least 50% of your time, and the other things can come into play after that. Figuring out your priorities is the first step. Now, for me personally, I had to be forced. I had to get a job. I had to put something in my life that was required that I couldn't skip. You can skip classes, but when I got a job, I had to, buckle down and get together. So I think that when you put something in your life that is a necessity, is required, it's going to make you realize what's important, and it's going to make you get to bed to be able to do it the next day. So I think that you realize that you're setting yourself up for your future now. I like to think that right now is my future. It helps me make decisions that I would want to in my future, so that my future is shaped into what I want to be right now. If that means skipping the parties, then so be it. I will gain sleep and be rested for classes or studying, and now that I have a job, I need to be rested. There's no excuse to fall asleep on the job. Once you commit, you have to get to sleep. So the lack of sleep in today's society is not only hurting the individual, but hurting society, and this problem needs to start turning around. I have presented the issues about not sleeping, and I have told you how to get more sleep. As college students, you need lots of sleep. It's just as simple as that. You either keep making excuses as to why you don't need sleep and then eventually crash, or you change habits now. Change it for your health and for society's health. Change for you now and for your future job. Change for society to keep it moving and improving. Thank you.